I call to order this regular meeting of the Monument Town Council, April 15, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Erickson, will you take roll?
Councilmember Chronic,
Here.
Councilmember Romanello,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Here.
Councilmember Abbott,
Here.
Councilmember Fiorito,
He's here in spirit.
I'll
I know I see him
notate that.
online. I don't think he's participating due to surgery,
Gotcha. Okay.
but he's here.
Mayor LaKind,
Here.
Councilmember Kimple.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, before us, we have a consent agenda and agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to make a modification to the agenda. Like to remove number 7, council reports. And then move to number 4, an executive session to
No, we're moving
We're-
forward.
to number 4.
New, it's new.
Number 4 would be an executive session to discuss Higby Road legal questions. Is that all we need to say about that?
That's just A. That's
Okay.
just A.
And then move number 9, the discussion item on Higby Road classification to number 5.
Okay, so we are creating a executive session to get legal advice on Higby Road. That'll be the new number 4, and modifying the discussion item on that, which was number 9, moving it up to number 5
And removing number 7.
and removing number 7. We've had a motion to modify the agenda. We have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Erickson.
Okay. 1 second. Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimple,
Yes.
Mayor LaKind,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanello,
Yes.
Councilmember Fiorito.
Wouldn't expect him to
Okay,
answer.
so don't call him. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest, Mr. Cole?
I've received none.
Okay. Then we were going to move into executive session. That the town council is going to leave the room, and that way you all don't have to leave, so we will leave. Mr. Cole, what language would you like? You're going to duplicate? We don't have any. Yeah, we're going to need some language for
Yeah.
going in.
I would recommend a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for receiving legal advice on specific legal questions regarding the discussion item Higby Road classification.
That was 26-4024B.
22-6-2044B. 4024B.
24-6-402B,
4B.
4B. All right, well, I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 24-6-402-4B to obtain legal advice in relation to Higby Road classification.
Second.
Ms. Erickson, we have a motion to second.
Councilmember Chronic,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanello,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Mayor LaKind,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimple.
Yes.
Okay, we are going into executive session. We'll return as soon as we're done. Okay, we are back from executive session. We are going to move on to item number 5. This is a discussion item on the Higbee Road classification. Mr. Foreman, like to start?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to introduce Bob Cole, our attorney, and he's going to lead you in a discussion on this and we'll be prepared to answer any questions you have.
So as I understand, this issue's come up because Private Metropolitan District and perhaps the developer have submitted a preliminary design proposal that's been evaluated by staff, and questions have come up both in terms of the right-of-way requirement for Higbee Road and also the design requirements. And you've been presented a lot of material on the matter, and relevant to that is the FHU study that you've discussed and had presented to you, and that goes really to kind of the design requirements of the road. And the detail of design requirements really is a staff issue, not a council issue, but the basic requirements, as considered by FHU, were looked at in that arena, and you've got that material in front of you, or have had it. And then the right-of-way dedication requirement, that really was something that was settled, I think, in 2015 with the Sixth Amended Development and Rezoning Plan that sets it out at 100 feet. There may be discussion points, but I think that's the state of the record. So be happy to answer any questions. Jeremiah's here also. He can talk to you a little bit about road design and what he's received and discussions he's had, if that's helpful. And I think there's representatives from the district here too that may want to speak to you.
Okay, the council want to start with any questions or hear from town staff, or would you like to move on with Triview and hear what they have to say? Okay. Mr. McGrady, I'd like to give you the floor and have you explain to us your cool color, $20 per print.
There's no dogs in the street with kids playing on the playground.
All right.
There's no button on that.
There's no button on that one. Okay,
it's
very
live.
good. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We've been at this for roughly 6 years trying to come up with a plan. When we first took this over, had this idea that we were going to incorporate Higbee into the town of Monument. It was a county road. And part of the issue is that the county was difficult to deal with. We had developers that wanted to develop in Jackson Creek. And quite frankly, they couldn't because of the way the county was viewing Higbee Road. So we took it upon ourselves to begin discussions with the county. And we worked for approximately 3 years trying to get that road out of the county into the town of Monument. And it was annexed into the town. And once it was annexed into the town, that meant that the district could then become involved. Without the district being involved, I could not spend district funds on a piece of property that was not in the district. So it became part of the process was the town would annex it. And then under our 1987 agreement, Triview would basically build the road and maintain it. So that's kind of where we were in June 21st, 2021. We had a financing agreement between Creekside and Triview, whereby the developer escrowed over $2 million in an account that we controlled. And we did an agreement with actually it was the annexation agreement that spelled out that Triview would design and build the road. So we went about designing and building the road with a portion of the $2 million that was escrowed. That was roughly half of the project, and the other half would come from development. to help build this section of road. So we got this whole project started. We've spent to date $645,000 designing this road. So this road that you're going to see tonight is really the first time that we've had a chance to present to you exactly how we envision it. Now, there are a couple things that I think are really important, and we've been trying to work with the town to try to come up with some sort of at one point this road was 70 feet wide. So we had to go out and we had to acquire additional right of way. And at one point we were told, well, we need a sidewalk on the north side. That admitted was not in our plans initially. So since that time, we've heard you, and we've heard exactly what you want. You want a 5-foot sidewalk in the right of way of Higbee Road. Well, in order to accomplish that, we had to shift the road south, which we did. So now, Mr. King, I think you correctly pointed out that if we have some of the right of way that's on the north side of the existing plat, the annexation plat, that would be a problem. Quite frankly, I hadn't thought of that. And I agree, that would have been a problem, because when we did the annexation plat, the north boundary of that roadway was the north line of Higbee Road. If we moved outside the north line of Higbee Road, we were in fact in the county. So you would have had another situation where you had a city town road in the county. And you would have had joint ownership of that little sliver of land. So we moved everything to the south, and we created a 90-foot right-of-way that, according to Mr. Cole, it should be dedicated and platted. We plan to do that. So we dedicated and platted a 90-foot corridor through there, which is what all the engineers have said is sufficient for a collector's street, which is what it is. So it's a 90-foot right-of-way that we are platting. Secondly, we need to deal with the power lines that go along the south side of Higbee Road. There are a bunch of old, crooked, dilapidated poles that run parallel with Higbee right on the property line. That is all going to be underground. But to do that, we have to have a separate easement. So in fact, what we are proposing here is a 90-foot dedicated right-of-way. And Sean will go through the cross sections with you, which we presented to you, so you have them and can actually look at them and see them and take notes. And we'll try to put them up here on the screens as well so others can see. But what we're trying to do is come up with a right-of-way that functions perfectly for everything. Safety, we'll be handing out documents that talk a little bit about safety, about why you have bike lanes where they're located. We'll talk about speeds and what speeds and why the importance of the roundabouts that we are proposing, what that does to improve safety of this corridor. So essentially, we are involved in this project. TriView is involved in this project because it's something we took on because we wanted to initially see that area of Jackson Creek develop. I had gone out and I had issued about $43 million in revenue bonds for the acquisition and construction of a renewable water supply. I bought those water rights in anticipation of development along this corridor. What was happening is we were not controlling our destiny. Monument wasn't controlling their destiny. TriView was not controlling their destiny. We had a situation where the county was controlling our destiny and they were being unreasonable. Thus, we brought the road into the town and into TriView so that we could control our destiny and hopefully make sure that we have the funds coming in from development. So that's how we all got here. And I'm going to turn this over to Sean because this is a great opportunity. Sean's been at this for 2 to 3 years, designing this road and redesigning this road and redesigning it again. I want Sean to present this to you, and I want you to be able to understand what we've thought about over the last few years. And please do ask questions. And from there, I will let Sean take the stage and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGrady.
Mr. Mayor, if I could real quick.
Yep.
Just to clarify, I did not suggest a 90-foot right of way. I indicated that the sixth amended development rezoning plan says 100-foot right of way. Just to make that clear.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, as Jim indicated, I'm Sean Hayes. I'm a roadway design engineer with Kimley Horn. I've been working with Jim and the Metro District over the last few years to develop a design for the Higbee Road widening. And like to take an opportunity to walk you through what's presented. Council, we had some plots of the same graphic that was included in your packet and is shown on the screen. If you have questions, please stop me in the middle and I can provide clarifications where it makes sense. So I'd like to start at the western limit of our project. As you can see on the screen, running north-south there at the leftmost edge of the screen, that is Jackson Creek Parkway. That intersection with Higbee Road is proposed to be signalized similar to as it is today. In the proposed condition, the lane configuration will generally match what is out there today. Specifically, westbound direction, there's a left turn and a right turn lane proposed. You will notice there is some additional pavement width that in our plans is gore striped out. That width is for a future westbound through lane at the intersection in the event that Higbee west of Jackson Creek Parkway is widened and development occurs over there. You'll also notice kind of on the north edge of the intersection, the curb return is way out east of where the existing Jackson Creek Parkway is. That location is set so that it matches with the future widening of Jackson Creek Parkway north from Higbee to Highway 105. That's something that we, the district and Kimley Horn, have coordinated with FHU as they work to prepare their design. In the eastbound direction, there is 2 lanes, one of those being an acceleration lane for the northbound to eastbound right turn lane, the other being a through lane, the receiving lane for the southbound left. Also in this segment, there is a 5-foot sidewalk provided on the north side of Higbee that is continuous from the school all the way to the intersection. And then on the south side of Higbee, there's an 8-foot multi-use trail provided. That multi-use trail is continuous through this segment and extends further east. That all of that improvement is within a right-of-way that is 90-foot wide. There's that additional 20-foot utility easement to the south of that, where it is likely that the electric will be relocating. As we move east, you'll notice there's a proposed roundabout at the entry point to the high school. This is a significant reconfiguration of the high school's current access. They currently have 2 full movement access points that are uncontrolled. Both left in and left out is allowed. With this project, we are removing that left turn access at those existing points and turning those into right turn only. There will be a raised median preventing that left turn movement, and all the left turns will be directed at the roundabout. Really, the benefit there is we don't want the uncontrolled left turn movement to occur as there's additional traffic volume at the intersection at the school with the development occurring. And we're looking at both a safety and an operation improvement for the existing school access.
Can I ask a question? So on your
Yes.
drawing, the eastbound lane as proposed would prevent a left-hand turn at the most western part of the parking lot. And from the north side, if they were exiting, it would prevent a eastbound turn. It would have to go to the west. from that western edge of the parking.
From that western entrance, yes.
Otherwise, they
that-
could use the roundabout to go in either direction.
Correct. You could only make a right turn out from that westernmost access point. A left turn would need to go to the roundabout.
Thank you.
If you could move to the next sheet. So this is continuing further east. As you can see at the left edge of the screen, that is the eastern access point to the school currently today. Similar to the western, that has been restricted so that there's no left turn movements there, with all left turns being directed to the roundabout, both in and out. As we continue east to Bowstring Road, Bowstring Road is proposed to be a single lane roundabout, very similar to the school. This roundabout allows full movements, left and right in every direction, single lane, and we anticipate that to operate well into the 2040 design year. Progressing east from the Bowstring roundabout, the section changes. To the east of the roundabout, there is additional pavement width to provide 5-foot bike lanes. Other than that, the section is very similar with a raised median as well as the 5-foot sidewalk on the north side and the 8-foot sidewalk on the south side, and that 90-foot right of way that we've mentioned previously. Continuing east again. So in the center of the screen is the existing intersection with Cloverleaf Road. That intersection today is a T intersection with an eastbound left turn lane. That configuration will be maintained with the proposed configuration. The difference would be we will be adding that raised median to help channelize those turn movements. You'll notice at Cloverleaf, Higbee Road is shifted north. There is existing wetlands just to the south of the existing intersection with Cloverleaf. That is a defined wetland conservation area and is an existing natural resource that we're not able to impact or modify with this project. And as a result, the road is shifting north. There is a minor pinch point here where the multi-use trail on the south side of the road shrinks from 8-foot to 5-foot. However, that multimodal bike connectivity is maintained as the 5-foot bike lanes are present through this section of the Higbee Road widening. We met with town staff last week and they did note that there is some existing guardrail at that intersection on the south side. That guardrail will be removed and replaced as part of this project. But generally the south side condition where those natural resources are, those wetlands, those will remain as it is today. As we progress further east from Cloverleaf, the section generally remains the same with one lane in each direction and those bike lanes. However, the raised median is removed in place of a striped median. That would be double yellow pavement markings. Very typical treatment, common in the town. And then on to the last sheet. This is the eastern limit of our project. In the center of the sheet, that is the intersection with Harness Road. That is an existing full movement intersection. As part of this project, we're widening to add turn lanes, both left turn lanes into Harness as well as right turn lanes. We will not be allowing left turn lanes out of Harness in either direction. With the increased volumes, that uncontrolled left across the major roadway presented a traffic and a safety concern that we wanted to mitigate by limiting that left turn movement. The 8-foot multi-use trail extends to the western edge of the Harness Road intersection, at which point it terminates. I do believe there are plans by the county at some point in the future to extend that multi-use trail to meet another facility further to the east, but that's outside of our limits today. And then we taper back to match existing relatively quickly after the Harness Road intersection. The additional widening is really just to provide the turn lanes. And then after that, it matches existing. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm sure there's going to be questions.
I do have a question on the current slide. Can the 70-foot, can you explain, can you describe that?
Yes, so once the corridor gets east of Cloverleaf, the right of way has already been platted out at 70 foot. So that is existing right of way at 70 foot. On both sides of the road, north and south, there is an additional 20-foot right of way, or pardon me, 20-foot easement that has been dedicated. However, both of those easements and that right of way is all existing with developed, built out properties.
Is that county?
To the north is county, to the south is town.
How far out did we annex Higbee?
Wasn't it to Home Place Ranch? So this is in the town from the end of this road design continuing east until the edge of, or it's the furthermost east point of Home Place Ranch, correct? Okay,
Is that Home Place Ranch or it's Home Place Ranch or? is
Home
that-
Place Ranch. That's where the
So
town
those are
boundaries.
those are those lots to the south, Home Place Ranch?
No, the Home Place Ranch
It's
is
further out.
out here somewhere.
So then wouldn't the right of way still be 100 feet? Or is it not possible?
That's what we're gonna discuss.
Okay. I got a question on Harness. For the folks that are living there today, and then whatever gets developed in the future to the south, you're taking away the ability for them to turn left. Is there not a way to put a roundabout there so that that traffic flow continues in all four directions? Because what I'm concerned about is that those folks that live to the south of Higbee that can't turn west, how far? I don't know if anybody's figured out the mileage.
We did look at that consideration. You're asking about the diversion for.
Yeah,
those
the divert.
homes
Thank you
that
for
live-
giving me a technical
Yes.
word that I didn't know.
Uh,
So what's the diversion for both the people who live there to the north today and those that are in the future?
Yes, so for Harness Road, Harness goes east and connects to Glen Eagle, which then connects to Higbee Road, about a half mile further east of this intersection. That intersection will maintain the left turn access. So for a small number of homes close to the current Harness and Higbee intersection, if they wanted to go east on Higbee, they will have to kind of drive through the neighborhood before accessing Higbee. It is not a significant detour. It's only about a quarter of a mile at the most extreme case. And that is a movement that should be a pretty small volume. There's not a lot of destinations to the east on Higbee.
And there's no evacuation
Yeah.
concerns?
About if there's a evacuation.
Those curb elements, those are mountable. If we get to a emergency scenario, that road could be opened up for left turn access in a controlled fashion.
A hammer?
Uh,
I get what you're, four-wheel drive, right?
no, with the mountable element, it should definitely be something that a typical passenger car can clear if needed.
No, so the people then to the south that can't make a left will have to also proceed east. Is there an access point for them as well or no?
So Harness Road continues through the development and connects to Jackson Creek Way. further south. and
Oh,
west of the
okay,
corridor.
so on the south side it does that. Okay.
So they do have a through movement.
Alright.
And one of the considerations was this left turn was people utilizing harness as a bypass to avoid going along Jackson Creek and, alternatively going through the neighborhood. So that was part of the consideration. We are trying to limit that movement. But yes, those people have an access point further to the south.
Like Knollwood.
Got it.
Okay, I would like to keep the focus, not so much on the road design, but the classification of the road itself and the right of way. I mean,
Well-
I
Yeah, I don't even know, do we need to deal with the classification of the road or just the right of way?
well, just the right of way. Yeah, I think that would be,
I mean, we've got a classification. of
Right.
the
you're
road.
right, you're right. Is there questions about the segments that they're showing? I mean, I'm concerned that this is dropped to 70 when the right of way per the ordinance that was approved, the Sixth Amendment to the ordinance 05-2015 is 100 feet. So that's the approved ordinance. Are you asking for a change to that ordinance?
So in this segment of Higbee, we are not proposing any new right of way. We are fully utilizing the existing right of way within that segment.
But the existing right of way is 100 feet per the Sixth Amendment.
Well, for which section? How
Well,
far does it
I
go?
mean, it's on that map. It's the entire portion there.
What map?
Which- yeah,
It's inside the packet.
Not the ordinance itself, but in the.
Well, the development plan for the Sixth Amendment from 2015. Page 43.
Oh, I'm 20 pages too far.
Got it. Okay.
And so what, let me just blow this up a little bit.
So where that was, there was a realignment of Higbee Road previously with 120-foot right of way that went through the middle of this project. And they relocated Higbee Road back to its historic location. And
Yeah, it shows on
took it
the,
into a
it
100-foot road.
it shows 100-foot right of way.
Right.
And it goes, I'm trying to look at the north-south. So Harness. So it's actually, that 100-foot right of way goes east of Harness. And it
Yeah.
goes to the edge of what is listed here as PRD 4. I'm sure that has changed in its classification or its nomenclature, but whatever that, it's north of Homestead, and I don't know what that area is, but that is 100-foot right of way from Jackson Creek property or Jackson Creek Parkway all the way beyond Harness.
So I can't speak to this document.
I understand.
I didn't prepare it. What I can say is based upon the boundary survey that we conducted to design this project, the 70-foot right of way is what is existing for the segment of Higbee.
Well, but the 70-foot right of way was what was annexed into the town subject to it was originally existing as a minor arterial, which required a 120-foot right of way, and we had the road classified. But the existing right of way per this Sixth Amendment is 100 feet, regardless of what the road classification is.
And this was done by
Correct.
another company. I mean, it's not your company.
Right.
But it's what was brought to the then Board of Trustees and approved as the Sixth Amendment to this development. And there's been none since.
And there's some documentation in this packet from the developer that also called it out as a 100-foot right of way. So I don't understand what why we're going down from there. If we would have stuck with our original road classifications, we would have had to increase it to 120 feet.
I just, I wanted to chime in for a minute if I could on, I think it's important to, they're connected, but maybe unmarried to two topics here. So we have the Sixth Amendment, which is truly about right-of-way dedication. And then there's road classification that's more specific to the criterion that they need to design to. So it sounds like and again, I'm just trying to unmarry these two topics to some degree, that the right-of-way dedication is the Sixth Amendment issue, which Kimley Horn wouldn't speak to, but the design element of the road needs to meet the criterion of the road classification based on the FHEU study and the studies that have been done by others along that corridor. So that's all I wanted to do. I'm not.
No, I don't
I just think it's.
I don't think we're road engineers. I don't want to get into the weeds of designing a road. We're just trying to establish right of way.
Is the right of way still 100 feet at that point, despite the size of the road?
I would have to refer to.
Because it would need to be.
Yeah.
Well, it is,
I
it is on
can't-
the Sixth
I can't
Amendment.
speak to that because I'm
Okay.
a roads person, but I think it's important to unmarry those two topics.
And I am.
I agree with you.
I just did. Yeah.
Well, I think the only reason why it came up was because one of the slides showed 70, a transition to 70 right away when the ordinance states otherwise. And so the ordinance has to be what we follow, because that's what's been approved by we can't just undo what they did like tonight.
Yep. No, I understand that.
Mr. Cole, are we going, is that tracking right? I mean, the ordinance is what stands, right?
Well, the ordinance, you mean the Sixth Amendment?
Sixth
The
Amendment.
Sixth Amendment.
So what that. Thank you. So what that document does is it tells you as you approve final plats, they need to meet those design requirements or that dedication requirement of 100-foot right away. I don't have a clear understanding of what existing final plats have been approved out there. They possibly may have approved something less than 100 feet. If they're approved after the Sixth Amendment, they shouldn't have, but that may be where there's kind of a disconnect in this conversation.
Okay,
Well,
well,
just to clarify my thinking, to go back to the slide, was the 70 feet the road size or the right of way size, now that we're discriminating the two?
can you bring that slide back up?
Just
we
real
just did-
quickly, yeah.
I think it was your eastern,
Yes.
your eastern edge. And I think we have.
There we go.
Mr. Oldak?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was remembering your name to the face.
It looks like a road
So that 70-foot is the width of the right of way.
Okay, the width of the right of way.
Correct.
Okay,
That goes from the northern right of way line to the southern right of way line. That southern right of way line is behind the southern curb, in between the multi-use path and the curb line. The multi-use path is fully within the existing easement in this segment of the highway. Pardon me, the roadway. And
okay.
all-
Mr. Oldak, do you want to add anything?
Sure. That'd be helpful.
Working with the Regency Park amended documents for 30 years. The Regency Park Sixth Amended it's a living zoning map. Began in 1988 with the Regency Park zoning map, which is referenced in the 1988 annexation agreement. And its purpose is to identify land uses and densities. In the annexation agreement in 1988, it does not suggest, and neither has this document ever been used to prescribe roadway widths or roadway classifications of any kind. And in this particular case, I would think it would be pretty clear that the Sixth Amended could not have any bearing on Higbee because Higbee wasn't in the town and Higbee wasn't in Regency. So this is the Regency Park zoning map pertaining to Regency Park land uses and zones. And the engineer that prepared this document, I spoke with him today about the document's intention, and with respect to Higbee Road, he said he was reciting from El Paso County's projections what they thought Higbee would be. In no way does that create a right-of-way. It couldn't. They can't create a right-of-way in the county by recording a planning document that doesn't even have meets and bounds, doesn't have a legal description. There's absolutely no bearing for any type of easement or right-of-way to be created through this document. It's merely land use and densities. It does show roadways, I acknowledge, shows the rough locations of those, how they might be used to service the Regency Park development. And the engineer put widths on there to correspond with the El Paso County designations at that time. It's a living map. It changed, 7 times, obviously. I think it's 6 times to create the 6th amended. So that's the background on it, if that helps.
There is, in the ordinance itself, I'm not trying to contradict you because I can't read the print, but there is under the exhibit, an actual legal description. No, Mike?
You could do 2.
There is a legal description there. The word right of way is in the context of this. I don't know that it's necessarily about the road itself, but there is information in here that's specifically about the legal description of whatever was rezoned for Regency Park.
Yeah. I could look at that legal description and possibly off the cuff determine, but it certainly could not extend beyond the south boundary of Higbee Road because Regency did not include Higbee Road.
But I would like to be clear about something because the reason it's in the town is because the county wouldn't move fast enough on this. Had it stayed in the county with their current right-of-way of 100 feet, it would have maintained at 100 feet. But because you decide to annex it into the town, that doesn't take away that 100-foot requirement. This originally had Higbee Road realigned going through the middle of this project, and it was dedicated at 120 feet right away. And Higbee on that 5th amendment was at 80 feet. So it specifically got changed back from 80 feet to 100 feet. And there's a response from, I don't know if it's from you or who it's from, to the town when the town was requiring 120 feet because it was classified as a minor arterial, where it says in there that the Regency Park 6th Amendment zoning map also calls it out as a 100-foot right-of-way. So that's everything that you guys have asked for on this project from the past you've gotten, and you've picked up 17 acres more or less of developable land by changing the road classifications and the roads that went through the middle of this. And some of those called for 80-foot right of ways that ended up at 60 feet right away. So, I mean, we've got documents that say it's 100 feet, and I don't see how we can just modify that, because at some point in the future, we might require extra space there, especially in front of the high school, and this right of way is what it's established at currently, as far as I can see. I mean, it got annexed into the town, therefore the 100-foot classification got annexed into the town along with it, as far as I can tell.
Well, the 100 feet that's referenced in that email, unfortunately, was written by me and is incorrect, because the El Paso County 2016 report actually had it as a collector at 80 feet and suggested that it would become a minor rural arterial, I believe. Is that right? Minor rural arterial in the future with a right-of-way of 100 feet. There are many different reports, as you know,
Right, but if
many different designations. And if I might finish, the engineer that created the 6th amended picked one, put it on there, as a planning document, and it was not meant to be prescriptive. And I'll elaborate on that by saying, to your example on Harness Road, he has 80 feet, correct?
Right.
It's a planning document. At no time in the 30 years that I've been developing here has anybody ever said, well, whoever did the zoning document says it's 80 feet, and that's the road that you've got to build. The way it works with us as developer, and I believe every developer that comes in front of you, they hire traffic engineers. In our case, I think we're on our fourth trying to give you information about this. And the traffic engineers determine what the classification is, the load, the service levels. Those are what are submitted to staff. And those are what are used to determine actual roadway widths and construction.
But we're not here to debate what the actual road design should be. The right of way as it was classified on the Sixth Amendment, where you have 80-foot right of ways in there. If the road design needed to be 40 feet, that doesn't really have anything to do with the right of way. So somebody changed that. You picked the right of way widths.
I don't.
On all these roads, or somebody did. I mean,
Yeah, engineers.
but it was done and got approved that way. And
I mean,
that's what
why,
I'm
why put the right of way on any of the road markings if they weren't going to mean anything?
The converse question is, why do traffic studies? Why not just hold up the Sixth Amended and say, this is what every road is? Why even make us do traffic studies to determine how roads are to be constructed or what the right of way should be?
But you
That's the
called
way
out
it's
the
always
right of
been
way.
done.
You called out the right of way. That's my point. Whoever did the Sixth Amendment specifically called out right of ways instead of just putting a road in here to be determined at some point.
I understand. So that is not an engineering document. That's a planning document created by Chad Kuzbeck in my conversations with him. He used whatever the county was showing for those road classifications. It's a living document. He didn't go and determine what those roadway widths should be. He went and found them on another document and carried them and said, this is what somebody says it should be. He's not a traffic engineer. He wasn't doing that.
I don't understand the term living document as it pertains to an actual ordinance. The Sixth Amendment is an ordinance. It was approved by a legal elected body of representatives. There's no living and breathing about it. It's set in stone.
Okay. Well, we were asked about every 4 years to amend it and to represent it and bring it through public process to have it reevaluated and approved. That's how you got the first amended, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth amended at the request of the town and essentially in conformance with the same requirements as a sketch plan. It's reevaluated. It's not an engineering document.
So I'm
It's
just
not
curious
meant
why
to.
Nobody's come back to you since 2015 to amend it further.
There's been like 10 planning directors since then. I don't know. I'll just close by saying we've never had this question before. We don't, there's some implication in the materials you were provided that we're out, changing roadway widths to gain developable ground. That's just not true. We submit to the same process as every other developer. We are here to provide a right-of-way and adding right-of-way and easements to our property to enhance Higbee Road, not only to deal with our impacts, but others' impacts that are using the roadway that aren't paying into the fund. We're doing that not just based on projections for our impacts, but everyone's impacts going forward in the same process that you have required for every other developer.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Oh, no, I would like to ask Mr. Cole. Again, it seems like there's two topics here. One is the size of a road and right of way. And then Mr. Oldark's comments about, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth amendment and whatnot. What is your take legally on this dialogue?
Well, your town code says that the Regency Park Overlay Zone District will be developed in accordance with the development and rezoning plan. The current plan is the Sixth Amendment.
Okay.
That's the latest. It shows a 100-foot right-of-way. To be clear, that document doesn't establish a right-of-way. It doesn't grant a right-of-way. It doesn't dedicate a right-of-way. It says as you have future considerations, that's what the right-of-way should be on plats in effect. Okay? So it doesn't,
Everywhere or in this area?
uh,
I think we're
based
talking
on
about
the
this area.
based on the Sixth Amendment for that entire length, as I would interpret that document. And so, in considering this design, the way that that right-of-way would ultimately get implemented is as you have the numerous final plats come before you along that right-of-way, it's, will you require the 100-foot right-of-way that's prescribed by this document? And while it's nice to hear what the draftsman thought of it, it's really not relevant what their intent is. It's the intent of the body that approved it. So that was
Oh.
The body saw 100 foot and naturally presumed, along with all the other right of ways, that this is what was being established by the ordinance.
It seems that the document speaks for itself and says 100 feet.
Right, it went from 80 to 100 purposely. Because it was a 80 before and it went to 100. And, I think that if establish right of ways, you're establishing right of ways and not just drawing roads to be determined later.
And can you discriminate between right of way and size of road? Are there two separate issues?
Yes, I believe there are.
Can you please,
So
for the public record, can you help me
Sure.
with that, please? Thank
Sure.
you.
I think the development and rezoning plan says there should be a 100-foot right-of-way dedicated. And your code says in fee, simple, no easements, has to be dedicated, has to be within the town's boundaries. And then the design really, is addressed by the FHU study that the town had conducted. And I think that sets the design of the roadway based on this development within the right-of-way that's required under this plan. That's the way I would see it.
So, Mr. Foreman, I got a quick question for you. So, before we did the study to reclassify the road, we would have had to have required 120 feet right of way based on the classification of the road at that time. Is that correct?
No, we couldn't determine what the classification of Higbee Road was at that time. We were asking for 120 foot. And in negotiations with TriView to have 120 foot of right of way.
Because it was listed on this map as a minor arterial. That's the
Right,
reasoning
exactly.
behind it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
Right.
So what are we saying? That
I'm just saying we would have had to have classified it and we would have had to take 120 feet. We reclassified it and we don't have to take any extra property because it's already determined it's 100-foot right of way on this Sixth Amendment.
Exactly.
The Sixth Amendment didn't give any property. It didn't provide any entitlements or rights for anybody to do anything with that road.
I believe it set the requirement for future actions to require a 100-foot right-of-way. He's exactly right. It didn't establish a right-of-way dedication in favor of the town. That's absolutely correct. But I do believe it established the design requirements that are currently in effect that your code says that the development has to be developed in accordance with.
Well, you're not asking my opinion. I take some exception to the idea that we can't interpret what the body, or we can interpret what the body would have decided however many years ago when they looked at this, even though Higbee wasn't within the confines of the town of Monument or Regency. But that today we can say that, and that we can, say that, absolutely, irrespective of the fact that the number of units that have been developed since then have changed, the densities have changed, what's developed down further by other parties have changed. All that's been accounted for by your engineers that you hired, our engineers that we hired, the second set of engineers that we hired, all the information we've provided. And I realize that that is different than establishing a right-of-way, which you're saying you have. Mr. Cole's opinion is that it's 100 feet because of what this engineer put on the Regency Sixth Amended. But we maintain that we are not responsible for that additional right-of-way that you may want if it's not correlating to our impacts and the impacts that we're accounting for others that are getting the benefit of the project that we're willing to build to improve Higbee Road along the stretch that we own.
When did Regency go into effect?
1988.
1988. So from 1988 to 2015, 6 amendments. And they all, it would appear with the movement of the roads and the labeling of the right of way, I have a hard time believing that the boards that sat before us did not believe they were looking at the establishment of what was going to be changed with each amendment.
Well, I mean, to take the converse, if high-rise apartments would have become very popular and would have been approved among a lot of rezoning, which has been popular in the town of Monument, and that had occurred on our property instead of other people's properties, and all of a sudden we had hundreds and hundreds or thousands of units, I don't think you would want me here saying, well, hey, 7 years ago, you guys looked at this and said that 120 feet's fine or 100 feet's fine, and now you want 120, too bad. That wouldn't be a good argument. And the reason why it's not a good argument is because impact should be based on engineering, not based on planning documents, and this is a planning document.
It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance approving a planning document.
It's an ordinance approving an amendment to the original, this for the 6th time, the original ordinance that established all of these different areas.
Yes, the zonings, the densities, and yes, it does show roadway configurations. And I understand your position. I'm just saying it's never been done this way.
It's even a handwritten note here that shows on one of the pages, 100.
That's
That's yours. All right, well, I'm glad you clarified that because I was about to say.
I made notes from the old.
It wasn't a document intended to classify roadways. I understand that your counsel is saying that the approving body could have assumed that it was, but it was not there to establish that. It was there to show the configuration and sort of how parcels fit together. If you read your ordinance concerning sketch plans, you'll see what this was about.
But
it's the same as a sketch
nothing
plan.
ever grows. It always shrinks. And, I can't speak for other councils, but when I see plans that come before me and I see dimensions and I see widths and other things, if I'm making a decision, that's part of my decision-making process. And if I looked at the 5th Amendment, it said 80 feet, and then it switched up to 100 feet because you took whoever took a major road out through the middle of this thing and relocated it back to the historic Higbee Road site, that would come into play for me. Because I would want to know what I'm getting, and now I'm not knowing what I'm getting.
But things do change. I'm sorry to
they do change, but they don't ever change wider. In other words, you're not coming back here saying, "Oh, we want to make it 120 feet."
Well, we've developed 800 less units than were originally planned in Regency Park. 800 less multifamily and single-family residential units.
Well, I'm sure.
Well, is that because of the road?
Wetlands issues in there too, so.
It's all kinds of issues.
Okay.
The types of houses that people like to buy, the types of values that exist up here. those densities. Also, please keep in mind that, Cloverleaf used to intersect Higbee. Now it doesn't. That was not our choice. That was the town of Monument and its engineers saying that they didn't want that access.
I'm sorry. This is recent development where the town said to you not to let Cloverleaf intersect with Higbee?
Traffic engineers, reviewing for the town in conjunction with traffic engineers for Triview, deemed that Cloverleaf should not intersect Higbee. Whereas in the Sixth Amended, we're going to use that
It
as
clearly
what the,
does.
yeah, so
No.
should it?
So can we bring that slide up that shows Cloverleaf? Because I think what you're doing there is you're putting a roundabout.
No, it doesn't intersect at all.
It's past it. Bowstring.
That's Bowstring.
Bowstring.
Okay,
There you go. From the south. That's Cloverleaf.
right. Oh, well, there's wetlands to the south, so you can't intersect there.
Yes, that's true. We had a plan to deal with that, but in any event,
You're
for
moving the
whatever
mouse?
reason,
You're moving the mouse someplace or?
there's no mouse up here, fortunately. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I have a lot of background with the Regency documents, and I don't think I can agree with the way you guys are interpreting that. I mean,
But you said,
Regency wasn't even in the town.
correct, but you said that this wasn't a legal document, but it's been notarized,
I didn't say it wasn't a legal document. I said it's not an engineering document. It's a planning
a
document.
living document.
And it
Okay.
is a living document. It changes from time to time. It updates and things move around, and we see, the next version of this will show Cloverleaf not intersecting, right?
Sure, but as a council person, I can't just make my decisions based on how I feel. If I had a bad day or a good day, we only have our documentation to look back to and refer to.
And
That's really what we're
I
doing.
totally understand. And that's good to reference for planning and zoning, but for engineering, we should look to the engineering reports is what I'm suggesting.
Sure.
So when was, the classification was not an actual engineering report, was it? It is. And, I'm sorry, who, Jeremiah. So Jeremiah, the engineering document states the right of way is how much?
Well,
It
it
does
doesn't
not,
state
it
a
does
right.
not address what the right-of-way dedication needs to be.
Right.
It addresses based on the road classification, which is based on engineering analysis, determines what a minimum road dimension or right-of-way for building a road that is classified as such. So
Is there a document that would come out and tell us that that road should have a right of way of X?
Yeah, we have them. It's in the packet.
it will say that for Higbee Road, that there needs to be a minimum of 90 feet to provide sidewalk, bike lanes, travel lanes, center lanes, variable green space, those sorts of features of road design. But as mentioned on April 15th, I believe, you could have 500 feet of right of way, and Higbee Road would still be classified as a major collector requiring a 90-foot build out. So that would still give you additional right of way that you're not technically by engineering standard required to build 500 feet of, in that scenario, of roadway, that you're still only required to build. So I guess if there is one thing that can change over time, would be the elements of traffic. So if you come back, let's say 10 years down the road and you do a new assessment and it's determined that the road and the densities and all of the things that development does impact, and the road, this happens, often where a road can become reclassified based on volume. And so if there's a reclassification of a roadway, then in theory, you should build it to that new class. So if the road in this example goes from a major collector to a minor arterial, you're going to need more right of way to build out for that capacity. But again, they're you know, and forgive me, I don't want to step into the right of way side of things or the planning and development side of things, but they are somewhat, I mean, interconnected or related, but they are two separate issues. And development drives density and then ultimately increases capacity for roads, which then would qualify potentially a new classification. But in this scenario, I think to come back to the FHU study and a lot of the studies that have been done along this corridor, that even looking well into the future, it likely won't meet a minor arterial. But that doesn't change right-of-way dedication. So I don't, you know, I had mentioned on April 15th, I don't want to get into that space. Really, I'm just concerned with the roadway configuration and what is required to build the road.
Okay, thank you. All right, so from the council perspective, do you have any questions, further questions for any of the people that have spoken so far?
My final question would be to Mr. Cole that it would appear that if we were going to do something here we would need to make another ordinance to change an ordinance or make a 7th amendment. Is that correct? If this was going to be approved in some way, manner or form?
I think if you want to require a right of way other than what's specified in the 6th Amendment, I think a 7th Amendment
would be
is necessary.
would be
Otherwise, you're
necessary. Yeah,
supposed
I just
to-
wanted to clarify legally
according
what
to
we're
your-
doing here. Okay.
That's right. According to your code, it says develop the Regency Park development in accordance with that development plan, which currently says 100-foot right of way.
And can I clarify too, just for the, again, after 60 days of tax season, that we just moved discussion number 9 above liquor license authority and we still have to go to, okay. Okay, just clarifying. I think we should probably press on here in some way, manner or form.
So
One question about the portion past Cloverleaf going east. That is reduced down to 70 feet. How does that meet any right of way, whether it's for a major collector or the major collector is 90 foot.
Yeah, I think that's a separate issue though from Amendment 6 is,
definitely separate.
yeah.
For now, I think we just go with what we've got.
Yep. How can I have to? I think legally.
We can't.
And what I would like, if I may speak just real quickly, I need some direction. We've been at this for years. Would the council please provide us some direction so we can quit wasting money and get what you actually want? Please give us some direction. And that's all I ask.
100 feet right away. I would think.
I think we're going to stick with Amendment 6. I mean, I leave it up to everybody to determine on their own. My thought is with what information we have available that shows notarizations and 6 amendments with intent and the documentation on it, we stick to 100 feet of right of way within the town's limits.
We came down from 120 really, because that's what we were going
Well,
to have to go with.
Let me be
so.
clear that there's certain things that we can do and certain things we can't. Right now, we have the developers that are here that are trying to get something done. And they're here and they can make the decision they need to make. Once you get east of Jackson Creek and you start getting the Home Place Ranch and you get into Colonial Park and you get into all those, all bets are off. I can't control that 100 feet. Even though it's in there.
I don't think we would be holding, I mean, we would be sticking to the area within the amendment,
which is
as
what
100 feet.
is what we're trying to do.
Right.
And we can probably get the 100 feet in the area that's associated with this current development. That's what we're here to try to do, is to try to get a roadway that's designed that's significantly better than what we have out there right now. And if we can get, I mean, you look at that map, most of that's already platted. If you look at that development, it's already platted from about Bowstring onto the east. Or I'm sorry, Cloverleaf onto the east. It's platted. So I'm willing to work with you in any way we can. I just, if we work together to try to come up with 100 feet, I need to get this moved ahead. I was supposed to be building this road in 2022. And here we are still today talking about.
Well, we're just currently going off the Sixth Amendment. We can't change that on the
Okay,
fly.
yeah,
And,
understood,
and
understood. Now-
our code says that the right of way needs to be owned by the town.
And I'm just being perfectly clear,
Right.
is if that's what you want, and if we can come back and get that for you, can we move ahead and get this done and quit messing around? Because the road is not going to change. You already heard Jeremiah state that the road design fits within 90 feet. What you're looking for is another 10 feet.
Well, we're just going off of what
I understand what you're going off of. I'm just saying the road will fit within 90 feet.
I don't want to speak for the council, but if they would agree with what I'm saying, I think from my understanding of the legal definition of Amendment 6, we need to have 100-foot right of way, not counting any easements. Are we in agreement on that?
Well, the town has to own the right of way, correct?
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so 100 feet right of way that the town owns, not including utility easements.
Total width. We get 100 feet and we're going to move ahead if we move ahead. Because
And that would include the roundabout, so they have to be completely within the town.
absolutely.
But let's not give him misdirection. Are we, no, I'm not you. I'm not saying that you did. I want, he's asking for clarity.
Yeah.
Let's please give the man clarity.
So-
That's what I'm trying to define with all in agreement.
Be in agreement that it's gonna be 100 feet right of way
Hey,
within the
The
town
town
limit.
limit, not counting easements.
Not counting-
Yeah,
It can't
yeah.
count easements.
Personally, I'm in agreement with what we've got to work with, which is what the Sixth Amendment is. We're not changing anything. And our code says that the town has to own the right of way. And any easements would have to be outside of that. That's what we've got right now. Without doing an amendment or something else, that's what we've got, and that's what we have to go on. I don't see how we could do anything differently.
Are we speaking within our legal authority or not legal authority, but legal is what we're saying fitting code, ordinance, et cetera?
I believe so.
Okay, then I think you have direction if everyone's in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't, this is not a hearing
It's
item.
not a hearing item.
Section. Section.
Right there.
So on the south side there, you'll see wetland conservation. So that extends to the southern boundary of the current Higbee right of way. So there's 70 feet of right of way. There's a notice of restriction that's been granted to the Army Corps of Engineers on that section. So there's 70 feet. That's.
So you can't even get
available. So I'm
90
not
feet
sure
there.
So
You can get 90 feet, or how you would go about that process to get 90.
So at Cloverleaf, you are limited by the federal government on a certain right of way. We have that documentation.
Mhm.
The town doesn't have it.
I don't.
Well, I
You
meant,
can provide it and you can.
I'm looking at you because you're the town manager.
Down.
I don't have it, but he can provide it to us and I'll provide it to council.
That'd be great.
The next page. As you continue east, these were platted, this area was platted as a part of Jackson Creek North filing number 4. And then filings number 6. Is that harness? Let's go.
That's the last slide.
That's the last slide.
So that one doesn't show
for some reason, the lots aren't overlaid on the west side of Harness. As you can see, the lots overlaid on the east side of Harness. It was platted with a 70-foot right of way and then a tract that was dedicated to the town with a varying width from 44 feet, I think, at the minimum. And it gets a little bit wider than that as you approach Harness. So that was dedicated to the town of Monument. It's a tract for any public use is what it says on the plat. So how you,
So are you saying that
Convert that to right-of-way.
we would have to dedicate it back, we'd have to give it back to them, in other words, for them to get the right of
to
way?
change it from a tract, or is it dedicated as a tract to the town to convert it to right?
We'd have to look at it,
Okay,
but it sounds like there's additional width there
Available.
that accommodates the
Yeah,
existing
yeah.
plating.
The area on the west of Harness until you get to that notice of restriction was granted with a 25-foot tract. So that was 70 plus 25, so that was the 95. And that to the south of there, I'm not sure if those lots have been sold to individual owners or not, but you have 25 feet on the south. That was dedicated as a tract to the town monument. So just for.
I appreciate that can we look into that? So right now, we're just talking from, well, the whole thing is supposed to be 100, but there's areas that we're.
25 feet he's talking about here.
Yeah, to the east of Harness Road. Okay. Is that enough for you, Mr. McGrady? Okay. Oh, well, we all learned something then.
Yes.
Okay, then we are going to, do you need 5 or are you good?
I'm good.
All right, then we're gonna move on. What the hell number are we on? Number 6 is the Arbor Day proclamation. Is Madeline still with us?
Audie.
Good evening, Council. Before you is a proclamation for our Arbor Day, which we plan to have a celebration and tree planting on April 26th at 10 a.m. at our Barnhart Orchard, which is over off 3rd Street. This is also our 30th year of being recognized as a Tree City USA, and these proclamations and the Arbor Day event helps us to remain a Tree City USA town. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we just need the proclamation read, please.
Anybody have any questions about the Arbor Day proclamation? If not, with our resident proclamation reader home, who would like to read the proclamation? No? You have it up? All right, I can read it. All right, proclamation to mark April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, and moderate temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our town increase property value, enhance the economic vitality of businesses or business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, the Town of Monument Board of Trustees, Town Council hereby proclaims April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the Town of Monument and encourages all residents to support efforts to protect our trees and our woodlands. Proclaimed this 15th day of April 2024. If I could get a reprint of that, please, before I sign it. Okay, the Board of Trustees ship has sailed. We will move on to number 7, Liquor License Authority. Tina, this one's yours. Public hearing regarding new lodging entertainment liquor license for Colorado Pinball Monument. We are so excited. I hope they're here in the audience.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight I bring you a Colorado liquor license application for a new lodging and entertainment for Colorado Pinball Monument LLC, doing business as Colorado Pinball, located at 303 West Highway 105, Suite B. The application was filed on March 4th, 2024. On March 27th, 2024, the notice of public hearing was published in the Tri-Lakes Tribune. On March 27, 2024, it was posted on the premise. There has not been within 2 years preceding the date of application a denial of an application by either the state of Colorado or liquor licensing authority for the town of Monument for the same class license as at the same location or within 500 feet of the same location, because the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood and the desires of the community were satisfied by the existing outlets. From the evidence submitted, the applicant is entitled to possession of the premise where the applicant proposes to exercise the license being applied for. The selling of alcohol beverages for consumption on the premise in the manner proposed in the application is not in violation of the Town of Monument Municipal Code or other applicable laws, rules, or regulations of the Town of Monument, El Paso County, or State of Colorado. The building where the applicant proposes to exercise the privilege of alcohol beverages for consumption on the premise is not within 500 feet from a public or private school or the principal campus of any college, university, or seminary. All officers, directors, general partners, and managing members with ownership of 10% or more and the registered manager have submitted individual history records and fingerprints for background checks as required. An inspection of the premise will be conducted prior to the issuance of the license to confirm the diagram submitted is accurate. Here tonight is Daniel and Holly Nikolic to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been waiting for this. I think we've all known it was coming, and so we're very excited that you were here. I'll save my question for the end, but is there any questions from the council?
This is, I'm just curious. This has nothing to do with your license. But I'm just curious. So what is it? This is like a bunch of pinball machines inside?
Yeah, so we own another similar establishment in Littleton called the Colorado Pinball Pub, same as here. And we've been open for several years. It's pinball and games and food and alcohol. All of
Like
them.
Supernova down in the Springs kind of thing?
I have not been to Supernova.
Okay. All right.
But we're kind of a it's a little bit of a different types of games, right? So pinball and some arcade games as well.
I know of the one in Littleton. I haven't been in it, but I know about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can get enough parking here for that?
Yes. So in Littleton, we have are you speaking about the Littleton or the Monument?
This one, the
This one.
Monument.
We believe that we have enough parking to satisfy the need. I think it's, there's some other space nearby as well. And in our Littleton location, we are next to Hudson Gardens, which is a public space as well. And we have an agreement with them, and they're open during the day and we're open at night. And it's a good reciprocal agreement between them. And there seems to be a similar type of parking situation around our building with the post office and the spaces around us that are day establishments as well.
Gotcha. Okay, that's all I had.
So you said you're gonna be open in late afternoon and into the evening? You have the hours?
Our hours would be 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the weekdays, and then we would be open from 11 a.m. till midnight on the weekends.
Right. Is there a restriction because of the alcohol? Is there a restriction at a certain time with minors?
At 11 p.m., it becomes 21 and over.
So only for that hour, 11.
Only for that hour. Yep.
Okay.
And we had discussion about that when we opened our first location. And we are family friendly. It's a unique kind of situation. During the day, we get lots of families. People bring their kids in, play some games with them. They'll have a drink, maybe a pizza together, just like you'd go if you were going to a Chili's or a Dave and Buster's.
Okay. Any questions?
Is there new style pinball, old style pinball?
All style pinball, yeah. So
I'm just wondering, because my favorite pinball machine was, Pyramids. It's very hard to find.
yeah, Evel Knievel, yeah, that's like early 80s, yeah. Yeah, so we have a little bit of everything. Our background too is we run a pinball festival. That's how this place started. Was we've been doing that almost 20 years. This will be our 20th year. It's like pinball and arcade gaming, like Comic-Con for arcade and pinball.
Love it.
That's what we do. And so we wanted to build a permanent home to kind of bring that same atmosphere and vibe. So that's why we started the Colorado Pinball Pub. So
I have one question. Do you have in your inventory, or do you plan on bringing a Rush
I knew it.
pinball machine?
that's funny. You might be the second person that asked me that.
Well, I almost bought one myself until I saw the prices of them, especially the limited edition is somewhere around $15,000, and I could use that elsewhere. But I would settle for the Pro with the 2112 bird, the owl,
We don't currently have one, but we know a lot of people that do have games. So, and we rotate games around quite a bit to bring new stuff in all the time.
All right, excellent. So, would anybody like to? Oh, what you have a ETA? Your opening is when?
We're hoping that we'll be open by Memorial Day.
Okay.
And
So
is this gonna be run by tokens or?
it's kind of unique. We normally have part of the space will be token and part of it will be hourly, and it'll kind of just be kind of like a Top Golf. You come in and you pay an hourly rate, and the games are on free play, and you play all you like. And
I know
we also
I might
specialize in whiskey is one of our other items. We have over 200 at our other location. We expect a similar type here. A little bit of food, a little bit of craft beer, a little bit of variety for everybody. As well as soda. We have fantastic root beer, Freddy's root beer. If you haven't had it, you should try it. It's really great.
Okay, I'll look for if there's no other.
So Mitch wants this too bad. So you're gonna have
Oh, the
to,
public hearing item.
you're gonna have to recuse yourself from the
Alright.
vote, Mitch.
Whatever.
Defender, Joust, Galaga, Pac-Man, all of it. I want it all. There you go.
No, This is a public hearing item. If there's anybody here in town hall that would like to speak for or against this liquor license, please make yourself known and come speak. While that's going on, Will, do we have anybody online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing item, and bring it back to the council for further conversation, questions, or a motion.
I'll move to accept the liquor license for new lodging and entertainment liquor license for Colorado Pinball Monument LLC, DBA Colorado Pinball Pub in Monument.
I'll second.
We have motion and a second. Ms. Erickson?
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Kimball,
Yes.
Mayor LaKine,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanello,
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes 6-0. Welcome to Monument.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Very excited. Okay, next up, we have some presentations. First one up is Ms. Erickson, introduction of Sylvia Simpson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I would like to introduce my new deputy clerk, Sylvia Simpson.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Sylvia.
Hello, Sylvia.
Evening. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
I needed her.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona, and I moved to Colorado about 30 years ago.
You guys, everybody from Phoenix moved here or what?
Yes, this was a ploy. Sen and I colluded to bring more Phoenix people to Monument.
And I've worked in government for over 30 years. So I've worked in city, county, and state. And my background is in judicial system, but I'm happy to jump into this and work for the city.
Nice. Do you play pinball?
Pardon me?
You play pinball.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not very good at it, but I try.
Well, we'll see you at the official monument grand opening at the pinball place.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Next up, Mona, you've got a presentation on the performance of the town CDs.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. We will present you tonight the performance of our investment portfolio. We're going to start with the CD performance and end with the sweep account. Max, you have the floor. Max, can you hear us? He's okay. Thank you.
He's already a presenter.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Sorry for the small glitch in the system. I'm also very excited about this pinball entity coming. I'm excited to visit in person. I'll be there next time myself.
Come on down.
This is great. Very exciting. Well, Mr. Mayor and town council members, thank you for the time. And Mona, thank you for introduction. So I'm Max Mojab with Piper Sandler. I oversee the town's investments. And I think it's a good time to go over them and give a market update. 2024 has been a roller coaster in terms of interest rates. Market started the year thinking that inflation was under control, anticipating Federal Reserve to cut interest rates 4 to 6 times by the end of the year. This caused interest rates to drop in January, February, and parts of March. At the end of March, we were seeing some signs that maybe inflation is stickier than expected, but still markets were thinking 3 to 4 rate cuts. Well, full disclosure, I put this presentation together at the end of March and about 2 weeks ago, and a lot changed last week after we had the March Consumer Price Index or CPI numbers. Inflation came out higher than expected, still very, close to 4%, high 3%. Right after that, we had some number of Federal Reserve governors and Chairman Powell speak, and they talked about inflation is lasting longer than they thought. The rate of increase is going up, and they basically said expectation for rate cuts coming this year might be 1. And the markets, and there are some outliers the last couple of days that saying the Fed actually might hike interest rates, and now this is out there, but markets are thinking maybe no rate cuts or maybe 1, and this caused interest rates to go back up the last week, which is in a sense good for the town. If you're investing, it's not very good if you plan to borrow in the near future, issue bonds. But for your investment portfolio this last week, it's promising, because we were looking at for 2024, the portfolio might go below 5%. Now, if this stands, and who knows what the inflation numbers are through the summer, but if this number stands as of last week, then we're back to 5%. If we can go to the next page, please. Before actually I go, any questions about interest rates cuts, inflation? I know this is a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it right now.
Any questions? No questions so far.
Okay, thank you. So the next one is a 1-page snapshot of, if you can go to the next page, please. This is as of February at the end of February. So when I put this together, sorry if you great. When I put this together, it was at the end of March. I still didn't have the March statement, so I went back to the February statement. So as you can see, we started with 10 million. Right now we're about 10,050,000. There are some small gains in terms of looking at the numbers. But then I think if you look at the bottom of the page, I think what I see that it's very interesting is you have about $72,000 in unrealized gain. That is also a good news. Now that number could be less now because, just we discussed, rates have gone higher since the end of February. But nevertheless, there are some unrealized gains. It's always good to look at, assuming that the town needs all the cash tomorrow and you have to liquidate, you'll be up with the unrealized gain. And that's always good to see. If we can go to the next page, please. So this is shows the investment holdings and the performance. So all the securities that we have invested in are U.S. government treasuries. They have explicit backing of U.S. government. They also fall in line with the Colorado Investment Code. And all the returns that we discuss here are net all fees and costs. We have planned a maturity of 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. Initially, we were going with 15, but now it's 3, 6, 9, and 12. So basically, the town has part of the investments coming back every 3 months, deciding if they want to roll it or if they have liquidity needs, they can take it out and transfer it to the bank account. Right now, the total size of investment portfolio is slightly over 10 million, about 10,059,000. Our estimated Q1 2024 revenue is 125,000 out of the 10 million. And 72,000 of that is unrealized gain. And then 53,000 would be come out of the maturity that we have coming up in April. So assuming the town decides to take this 125,000 out, if they need it for any projects, they could take it out at the end of April and transfer it to the bank account. Or option B would be saying, let's roll it for another 12 months and get 5% on it. So that is the flexibility that this 3-month draw gives the town. Every 3 months, you could look at your gains and say, we want to take it out or we want to roll it. And that's something that we're going to decide and have a conversation with Mona and the team and say what the decision is at the end of April, if the 125,000 is needed to go to the bank account or it can be rolled for the next maturity. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is a very, it's been very tricky to guesstimate expected revenue. As I said, beginning of this year, we were looking at below 5% for 12 months, and the town had a maturity in January that was reinvested at 4.7. Now, had we done this investment today, we're going to be back to 5% because of all the things that we discussed, inflation being stickier and rates going higher. So when I put this presentation together at the end of March, we didn't have the recent inflation numbers. Rates were about 4.7. So I had to reduce the expected revenue for 2024 based on 4.7% number to 470,000. But looking today's number, I would be back at 5% because of what happened the last week with inflation numbers. So, as of today, my estimated revenue for 2024 is back to $500,000. Now, 3 months from now, if inflation would be lower, numbers would change again. So, and the last 2 weeks, it changed from 4.7 to 5%. So it's going to be evolving. But right now, we're back to $500,000 revenue based on the $10 million investment, which is 5%, which is great. If you look at historically the last 10 years, rates were about 0.5%, and now we're talking 5%. So, it's a good news because the last 2 weeks we went back to the original number of 500,000 for 2024 on your portfolio. This is pretty much the report I have. If you have any questions about the investments, about the rate of return, about how we are looking at reinvesting every maturity, I would be happy to answer those questions.
All right, thank you, Max. Any comments or questions from council?
I just have a question, Max. Thank you for handling this well. Not being a municipal investor, on the Colorado laws, does it have to be treasuries only, or do they allow high grade, like AAA rated municipal bond funds at all, or is that not approved as part of what a municipality can invest in?
Great question, and thank you for asking that. Yes, you could invest in AA taxable municipal bonds, and they have to be general obligations, and that's allowed. But the issue that I have is when you look at the 12-month maturity, there is very little supply of high-grade AA rated taxable muni. They typically go longer maturity. Unless the Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No worries. Unless the town changes the duration of the investments and give me some more options to find supply, it's really hard to come up with 12 months and in 2.5 million pieces of taxable muni that fits that investment guideline.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they would change that, but as you and I both know, the opportunity right now that the Fed's created with higher interest rates and the bond teeter-totter, which I don't know how many people here understand that, but we could buy those right now and then just wait, get 4 or 5% tax-free, and then wait for the Fed to go into a lowering position and actually have a growth opportunity in bonds, which could be really wonderful for the town if they could handle the longer duration. And that might be a conversation for a different day.
Exactly. And I completely agree. There are other municipalities in the state that have a longer duration target, typically 3 to 5 years, and they're taking advantage of exactly the strategy that you just said.
Well, should we do like maybe a talk with you, me, Mona, and the town manager, or another council person on, and then bring it back to the board possibly, or what do you think?
I will be there next month.
Is the town willing to go longer than a 12-month roll, or where are you guys at with that?
So that's some of the opportunities we offered you previously in the council decided to go with this strategy that we're using today. If you want to change that strategy, I think staff would support that.
Well, I'm not willy-nilly on the strategy.
Right.
I'm more concerned with what your need for liquidity is. That's the key. And if your need for liquidity can afford that, we can make some, I mean, it's been.
It's a conversation we definitely can have.
Well, I will tell on public record, the opportunity to make growth potential in bonds hasn't been available in like 46 years. It's a very narrow window.
Right.
So there's an opportunity that we can make some good money and stay within Colorado guidelines. And Max, I think we should definitely discuss that.
I will be there next month. I contact Mona and we'll talk. And is that Micah here?
Yeah.
If you
why
guys
don't
would,
why
if
don't
the
we,
board
Mike
would
and
support me
Mona,
being
we
part
set
of
up a
that
meeting?
conversation, that would be wonderful.
Better you than
I'll
me.
I'll set up a meeting with Mike and Mona and put a proposal. They can share it with you. And if that's something that gets approved, we can definitely make those changes.
It's a very lucrative opportunity for the town. I will tell you that.
Talking about it. Why haven't you done it?
Because it's a conflict of interest for me to do this and be here. Actually, I could resign here and
Oh.
I'm sorry, Max. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Now,
So,
this whole thing just turned on me, but that's okay.
I had to have some fun tonight, you know. I mean, yeah.
Yes. No, I hear you. No, I completely agree. I think putting a proposal and presenting it to Mike and Mona, and then if they bringing it to you and the board, I think that would be the best path to go. And I'll be more than happy to put that together.
Well, you know, our attitude is every couple grand counts, right? Every couple $100,000 counts, right?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
and to your point, there are other municipalities that have different liquidity needs that are exactly taking advantage of this strategy in the state and other states. So I think it's a great idea. I can put that together and present it to Mona and Mike and then take it from there.
Hey, thanks for all you do, my friend.
Anytime. And thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that.
I've got one real quick question. I'm not going to try to change your investment strategy. So on the unrealized gains, the unrealized gains is from the fact that you bought treasuries that were dated out at some period of time that have higher interest rates than what's currently available, and that's the equity in that portion of the treasuries. Is that correct?
Correct.
That makes
So
sense.
basically, the town bought a 12-month treasury, and now 6 months to the maturity or 3 months to the maturity, it has rolled down the curve and has some gain in it, in addition to the interest that earned. So this is in addition to the interest that the town is earning. Now, it partly talks about, as of the end of February, the rates were lower than where they are today. So the way the market looks at it, let's say you bought this 12 months ago, there is 3 months to go. If you sell it right now and you want to reinvest it, rates are lower. So that gain is reflecting your lower reinvestment opportunity. Now, again, that was the case as of the end of February. Now, this unrealized gain, given what happened the last week, is going to be smaller because as rates go up, any bond portfolio prices go down. I mean, the relationship between yields and price, yields go up, price goes down. That's the case. But the upside, whenever that happens, is that your next maturity will be reinvested at a higher rate. So in this case, I would recommend not taking advantage of that small unrealized gain, let it mature and reinvest it at a higher rate.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we should take it out. I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were doing there. And that was all I had. Thank you, Max.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mona, is there any more to the presentation?
Yes, there is one more page, but before I go over, I would like to thank Max for taking the time to go over the presentations, but also to answer your questions. Thank you, Max.
You're welcome.
The second investment opportunity we have, it's called the sweep account, and this is with Wells Fargo. We started this program on October 26, 2023. We have been investing our money into opportunities to gain, to raise, not to raise, but to earn 5 point some. So an average is 5.18, 5.21 since October 2023 till the end of March 2024. So you can see on the screen by month how much investment income we have earned since the inception of this program. You ask us to bring you after 6 months how much we have been earning. So although it's not a complete 6 months, we did start in October, and this is as of the end of March. Wells Fargo sweep daily about 9 to 13 million dollars in our behalf, depending on how our balance is every day. So to your point earlier, if we have a need for money to make some purchases, then our balance will go down. But then we receive the sales tax, and then it goes up again, and depending on our needs. So in total, for 5 months and 6 days, we have earned almost $250,000. Actually, more than $250,000, 241,000.
Thank you so much, and good job on that.
And would you like us to continue to keep the money in the sweep account?
I would agree with that 100%.
This is just operating. This has nothing to do with our reserve.
So this is just the funds that we have to operate our business. So it has nothing to do with the reserves. And one example when it comes to reserve will be, we have ARPA funds, which are in reserve. We have some other funds with Colo Trust. We have about 8 million, which are allocated to specific investments, or I should say projects. So yes, this can be considered reserve depending on how we use the funds. But besides these funds, which I said, we have 9 to 13 million any given day, we have some additional, I will say about 10 million, which are in specific accounts. So ARPA can be used, about 2 million can be used for infrastructure projects, which we're going to use for JCP, for Jackson Creek Parkway. And then we have a variety of Colo Trust accounts. And in those Colo Trust accounts, we have about 8 million, 7 point some million.
So Mona, would you say this is the most liquid fund that we have?
Yes, and these require very little.
There's no lock-in.
No,
There's no lock-in.
no.
It's liquid. Money markets are completely liquid. This is an absolute no-brainer for the town to do, without a doubt.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, this is it, unless you have any questions for me.
No, good job, Mona.
Thank
Making
you.
town money.
Yeah, thank you, staff, for all this. Yeah.
Thank you. Next up is the annual town manager's report. No?
Oh, you mean
We move.
What do we? Resolution number 04.
Oh, right. Yeah, we have to.
Taking that to the curb.
We're gonna make a motion to continue resolution number.
Do we have to give a date, Mr. Cole? What date do we want to do?
20. Let me finish the.
Sorry.
Motion. Okay. I make a motion to continue resolution number 04/2024, resolution approving a final plat for Zeal at Jackson Creek, final plat to May 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Erickson.
Councilmember King or Councilmember Kimple, sorry.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Yes.
Mayor LaKind,
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes 6-0. Now we'll go to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to thank staff for their putting together this annual report this year. And also we had a special editor this year. And so we worked with our special editor quite a bit to make sure that this met the requirements. and our goals and objectives for presenting this to our public. We always want to make sure that we're presenting a great document to our public, and I really appreciate your input, Ms. Cronic. It was amazing, and staff loved it, so we appreciate that. So thank you very much. It's my honor to present to you the 2023 annual report for the Town of Monument. This comprehensive document encapsulates the achievements and endeavors undertaken throughout the past year, shedding light on significant projects and key financial milestones. The dedication and commitment exhibited by the staff of the Town of Monument have been instrumental in meeting the diverse needs of our community, thereby enhancing the quality of life for our residents. In 2023, many projects that were initiated in preceding years, prioritized by previous town boards and our esteemed citizens, reached completion. With unwavering dedication, each member of our employee team, in collaboration with the council and our citizens, are going to actively seek avenues to enhance customer service for 2024. Our overarching aim is to cultivate an environment where individuals are compelled to reside, conduct business, or simply revel in the offerings of our community for leisure and entertainment. Our ultimate aspiration is to emerge as an empathetic organization that makes a tangible difference in the lives of our constituents, thereby garnering accolades for the services we provide. By delineating a clear vision and setting purposeful goals, let us forge ahead, seizing opportunities that foster a community wherein every individual not only survives, but thrives in the Town of Monument. Be glad to answer any questions you have about this document.
I do have a couple questions. Page 100 of the annual report has a section that indicates that the finance department worked with 2 federal agencies and the state of Colorado to provide access to the Monument Police Department for asset forfeiture. And it took 8 months to complete.
Page 100?
Page 100 of the packet.
Oh,
sorry.
What? I was like, wow. Page 100 of
so this is the first that I'm hearing about the town working with federal agencies as well as the state on asset forfeiture. And so I'm curious about the town's involvement and the lack of knowledge about it. I guess my questions are around, was the federal and state agencies taking, since finance was involved, I assume there was money transfer. And so I'm wondering why finance would be involved in asset forfeiture, and is it because we collected things and needed to turn it over and it was funneled through finance, or the opposite direction? I just have a lot of questions since knew nothing about it.
No problem. Mr. Mayor, what that is we put together 2 different things. One for the Department of Justice on an asset tracking that we have to do to comply to be able to get grants through VNI, through Vice Narcotics and information. We have an old one from like about 2021 where we were a part of a task force where they did get some money. It's going to end up being around $12,000 if the feds ever get around to sending us our check. What I've had to be doing in the interim every year is keeping all of our paperwork up to date, that we're complying with all those things so that they can cut us that check. So that is the only thing we do with them, is report on those funds that we are still eligible for when they do send them to us. As far as the state of Colorado, we are required to send in an asset and forfeiture requirement by Colorado state statute, which is simply saying forfeiture money that has come into the town. And we don't have what they classify as forfeiture money. That would be actual money that we have gone after. You go after somebody's car or somebody's house for criminal acts, and then you go to a hearing and get that as a forfeiture from the government, from the judge, and then you collect and take that. That would be a true forfeiture. What we have that's in the gray zone on that is money that is found on property at a stolen scene, $300 at a stolen scene that nobody knows really where it came from, but it was found. It was never claimed. It was part of an investigation that doesn't go anywhere and the statute of limitation ends. But it is still money that now that the case is over, we have to put somewhere to say, okay, there was nowhere to return it. It's not truly a seizure, but it is an asset that came into the town. And we have been collecting those kinds of things that come out of evidence since 2019. They have a list of them, which is the account that she has. So all we have is an account of around $3,000 of those kinds of different specific things. And we report to the federal government and to the state government to keep our eligibility to get those funds should they come in. And that is legitimately all we're doing on both of those fronts.
Okay, and then the money stays within the police department?
By state statute, what ends up happening before we would ever be able to spend $1 of it, it says that you have to have a meeting with the 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office representative, the chief of police, the finance department manager, the town manager, and they would have to have a meeting and do an event together to decide how they could go ahead and spend those funds. And my guidance to the chief so far is wait until we have enough money to do something you actually wanted to do with. It's not costing us anything. It's sitting there until you have a rainy day that you want to spend it on something. And then you would have to convene that group to comply with state statute.
Is that money collecting any interest?
Is it being invested?
They never mentioned the funds were collecting any interest, and we had about 78,000 in the account. And like Commander Lapton mentioned, we have some turnover in the finance department for some years, and also there was in the police department we have some changes in the chiefs. And to be honest, I did not expect this to be such a intense process, but one agency will send me to the next and to the next and to the next. And it took forever just to realize what I need to provide and who I need to talk. But all these agencies were necessary to be, to have a discussion with and to submit different documents.
Well, my personal opinion, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I am not a fan of police civil asset forfeiture in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what we would do with this information in the future, but it may come back up. I just was curious about it because I had never heard that we were doing it. I guess I could have assumed.
Surely we're not actively going after this. This is an old forfeiture case. Like I said, I think it was 2019, and we were trying to get money since I arrived in 21. This has been on the agenda to get the check is literally my only involvement in trying to get that done and jumping through those hoops. The way the state statute's written on forfeiture and assets, it does not clarify completely. Like I just explained that case of the missing money or the money that comes up. Is that an asset? Is that a forfeiture? Nobody claimed it. Nobody gets to it. But we are trying to be very transparent and show every penny that's come in, and it is an asset that came into the police department, and someone's going to ask where it came from, and we tie it to the case number that it came from. But we are not actively going after asset forfeiture from anyone on anything currently within the police department. So.
To hitchhike on the mayor's comment, which I agree with 100%. And I'm going to ask this to Mr. Cole. Would it take an approval of the council before anything like an aggressive pursuit of that happened? Because I would stand against that entirely to the death, by the way, on record. Or what would need to happen in that situation? Or is that something that could just happen willy-nilly without our approval?
I think if council has a position on it, I can't answer specifically whether you have to approve it or not, but I certainly believe that if you have a position on that, you should state it, make it well known to staff and your town manager. And
I just did.
And I would pony up on that too. I am definitely against asset for sure.
So the seat.
If that started happening below the radar without our knowing, if I was still on council, there would be some
We-
discussion.
We can bring back a resolution stating that position if you'd like, and then it's absolutely clear and we have a,
Let's bring it up as a council discussion at another time. And then we can decide, once we have all seven here, what direction.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, and the other question I have is the section related to sales tax self-collection. The report stated that the process was still ongoing and would continue into calendar year 2024. However, we've already approved 2 resolutions that we were going to proceed with self.
Mayor, this report is for 2023, not for 2024. So the action that we've taken has been in 2024.
Okay, I can live with that. All right, that's the only questions I had. Otherwise, I thought the report was great and very detailed. Anybody else have anything they want to add about the report?
Not at this point.
Okay, then we will move on to, well, Mr. Foreman, anything else you want to add?
No, not
Your
good.
report?
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right. Then we move on to public comment. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Individuals attending in person may raise their hand to indicate their desire to comment. Individuals attending via Teams may raise their hand digitally to comment via connected devices. Please lower your hand when finished with your comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in town hall that would like to make public comment? Okay, anybody online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, we will close public comment then. We will move on to council authorization items, which I don't see any. Is there any council comments?
I would just like to really briefly state that what I was trying to communicate with regard to the bonds and staff is there is a great opportunity to make money in the bond market if you can tie money up for like 2 to 3, 4 years. But I just am very also aware of the town's liquidity needs. So I would want feedback from the staff as to how much of this you need available versus how much you can do. And that's, I just want to make that clear to everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That's all. Okay.
Any other council comments?
Yeah, I have something I passed out to everyone here. Just, this is a preliminary study on impact fees. A lot of missing items are in here because I couldn't locate them easily. But I was looking at our town impact fees, and especially where it comes to roads, because we're short on money to fix some roads that we have around here. And I was a little bit shocked, quite frankly, at how high some of these fees are in other municipalities. And a lot of them have these traffic impact fees, which is that TIF in the first column there. And you can go through that column and see these are per unit that are charged for development for the sole purpose of traffic mitigation issues. And then I put some other fees in there, and some of the things I found were park fees and police fees and fire department fees and public works fees. And these are for facilities. So like the police department, they charge a fee for that so that they can upgrade their facilities based on the impact, and park fees based on the impact. And also gets down to water tap fees. And some of those water tap fees that I put on here are high because there was another section of renewable water, and I didn't split those out, but I will. There's one at the bottom for Castle Pines, and you can see that, they have a $15,000 fee for their renewable water fund. And then there's sewer tap fees and drainage impact fees. Littleton has a museum fee and a library fee. We obviously don't have that stuff, but when you look at the column on the right, you'll see how much lower we are than pretty much everybody. Littleton has some lower traffic impact fees because the town is essentially built out, but other places, and you can see Castle Rocks, I mean, it's just crazy how expensive that it is there. if you look all the way on the right, their fees total up to, for an average, they have different fees for different size houses. I took the middle of the ground there, was like 2,500 to 3,000 square foot houses. And by the time you get done, there's $77,000 in fees. And I'm not suggesting we go up that high, but I'm just saying, when you look at the traffic impact fees and you carry it all the way down to the bottom to where monuments is, you can see that we're just so.
We need an upgrade.
We need an upgrade.
We need an upgrade because we need to be able to fund some of these impacts, and we're not able to do that. And
Even Triview's higher than us.
yeah, even Triview is considerably higher than we are. So I have a question for Mr. Cole on these impact fees, because it's a little bit difficult because Monument has a big metro district, and we've got crossovers. Like they provide a lot for their own roads, but we provide police and other things. And where it comes to the roads, like everything that's, if you just take the west side, which is predominantly where we're collecting our money from and using it for roads, we still have the rest of Jackson Creek Parkway to do, and that's predominantly impacted by Triview. So can we put an impact fee on stuff that's in Triview and collect that for roads or other things that we need?
So I pause for a moment because last Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a new decision on impact fees that changes, I think, what the general understanding was. And in the end, it may not, but at least at first read, it mixes things up a little bit. And so where I'm going to go with this is you can charge if you have an impact that you have to mitigate that's created by the development. That's
proportional.
That's right. Now, for the last 10 to 20 years, most attorneys have thought about kind of two classes of requirements: exactions and impact fees. Impact fees being a program that's set up in advance that applies categorically to similarly situated properties and imposes a charge, and it has one legal standard for measuring whether it's valid and whether the fees are correctly calculated. Then on the other hand, we thought of a second category, impact exactions, that are imposed on a case-by-case basis. So when an application comes before you, you say, your code says minimum. Well, we think we've got a bigger impact, so we want minimum plus. That's an exaction, and that required a higher standard for determining the legitimacy of the amount. And last Friday, the Supreme Court said everybody has it all wrong except us. 9-0 decision. So they were really clear in their minds. And they said, we have to go back to this Nolan-Dolan analysis. Yeah. And everything has to be have an essential nexus between what you require and the development, and then it has to have rough proportionality. And so they said that's the standard. And even in this case, in the end, the parties all acknowledged that that was the standard. So we have no beef. Take it back to state court, and the state can figure out whether there is the ability to have different measures for that case-by-case basis versus the predetermined case basis. So that's up in the air a little bit on which legal standard we apply. I've litigated these cases before, and in the end, the mathematical difference, I'm not sure there is one. It's more of a standard of review. But I just bring this up because it's going to have us scratching our heads for just a little bit before we jump back in and give you some real clarity in how to proceed with exactions and impact fees. But the key, Mr. King, to your question is you can't charge if TriView is mitigating all the impacts from the development. If TriView is not mitigating all the impacts, then you could charge an impact fee.
Okay, so I have a second part to this question, because all of these municipalities had studies done. And for example, and I'm going to take, a couple of extremes here. So Castle Rock, which is pretty highly congested and small lots and everybody's packed in together, and their traffic impact fee is $16,300. So they had a study done that justified that 16,300. And then you have El Paso County, which is way spread out and rural in a lot of areas, and their traffic impact fees is 3,800. And it seems like it should be the other way around. But so, I don't get how these traffic studies are working.
Well, impact fee studies, and,
Right.
and we just have to look at them to get an understanding of what all went into it. They may require different levels of improvements. I just can't answer that.
Right.
Do we know what the
fees-
costs are to have a study of like this done?
I think
When was the
Tom-
last time?
Tom's,
When was the last
research-
time we raised impact fees? What decade?
90s.
Well, while he's getting mic'd up, the fee in this Supreme Court case I'm talking about, it was a traffic impact fee on rural development in a fairly rural California county, and their fee was 24,000 some odd.
Is that the one that the owner of that property started the lawsuit for? It was for one single family house?
Yes.
Okay, I read about that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's almost like
Well, it was one guy building one house on the lot someplace. I mean, that's,
completely.
you're not impacting anyone.
Well, the question was, did he win? And he won in the Supreme Court in saying, you got to go back and apply this other standard. But then they left it back to the state courts to determine what, whether that fee is too much.
Well, before Mr. Tharnish speaks, I just want to, number one, thank Mayor Pro Tem King for putting this together. And I think we all can be in agreement that we need to update this, right?
Yes.
Now, how we go about that, obviously right now in council comments, probably isn't right. I'm not a huge fan of long workshops, but I don't know if we give staff direction to present us some things so that we don't have 3-hour workshops, but we just go over what their recommendations are, or if we do a workshop with staff to go about this, but it needs to be addressed. So what is everybody's take on how we do this?
Councilmember Romanello, you have given direction to staff already to do this, and so staff is currently researching this. And so Tom's researching water. We've got planning, researching street and all kind of parks impact fees and everything like that. So staff is working on this right now. We're going to be working with Bob on this before we make any presentation to council.
Great.
A quick question.
Thank you.
Bob, are these, so if we, let's say we fill in all the blanks and we assign impact fees as we see fit, maybe not all of them, but for what we require, there's set in stone, or can somebody come by and say, no, we can't pay those or object to them?
So, couple of points. You wouldn't set them as you see fit. You would set them based on an analysis.
Right.
But yeah, you can build in some exceptions, and what I think is currently in your code, and certainly what I always recommend, is you give someone the ability to dispute your fee and prove you're wrong. And then if they do that sufficiently, then you can moderate that fee. If they don't, and then they sue you later because they said your fee was wrong, then they didn't take advantage of their potential remedies, and in theory, we would get that case thrown out of court immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Quick before, sorry, but when you talk extraction,
exaction. is the
Exaction.
word that you-
Extraction. Yeah,
Yep.
it sounds to me like you set yourself up for discrimination of some kind.
Well, and that's why the court has always been concerned about it, because when someone comes before you with their request, right then you've got the most leverage over them. And the court is very clear in using that kind of language. And they say, so you've got to be very careful. And so this predetermined program that deals with classes doesn't have quite the same amount of leverage on an individual applicant. And so what the court this last Friday said in terms of those two, and I say kind of punted it back to the state court, said, we do not address the parties' other disputes over the validity of the fee, including whether a permit condition imposed on a class of property must be tailored with the same degree of specificity as a permit condition that targets a particular development. But that shows you that difference that they've been very concerned about in the past. And this is all under the takings clause of the United States Constitution. If a developer wants to do something and you exact something from him, whether it's land or money, and it doesn't go to offset their impacts, you are taking in violation of the federal Constitution.
Like for clarification, you said that there's going to be a presentation.
Yes,
Is that presentation going to include recommendations and a way forward?
yes. After we meet with Bob will run through all that and we'll have recommendations for you.
Okay.
And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, providing this list, because I know Tom and Ray have been working on this. And so a lot of those blanks will be able to be filled in by staff.
Right, and I'll update the actual Excel spreadsheet and send you that.
Thank you.
I just had a few mistakes in here that I wanted to clarify.
Definitely.
Again, thanks for doing it
Sure.
very much.
Okay, are there any other council comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on to executive session. We have two of them. And we will adjourn after or at the end of executive session. We will not come back. So Ms. Erickson, you'll be able to
Very happy.
You'll be able to bolt after this. Can I get a motion to move into executive session?
We'll have to read, Mr. Cole, each one separately.
Separate.
Okay. I move to go into executive session first for pursuant to 24-6-4024A CRS and 24-6-4024E CRS concerning the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real property, and to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding potential water rights acquisition, and an executive one at a time for the vote.
One at a time.
Okay. Somebody else to read the next one.
I'll second.
I have motion and a second for the first one.
Mayor Pro Tem King? Oh,
We take a break.
just kidding. Councilmember Kimple?
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella?
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott?
Yes.
Mayor LaKind?
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic?
Yes. And I'll move to go into executive session pursuant to section 24-6-402 4F CRS regarding personnel matters involving the town manager's annual performance review, who has been notified of the executive session and has consented to it.
I second. Ms. Erickson?
Okay. Mayor LaKind?
Yes.
Councilmember Chronic?
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott?
Yes.
Councilmember Kimple?
Yes.
Councilmember Romanella?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem King?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's your vote on the first one?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. Thank you, everybody. This time we're going to ask you to kindly vacate. We are going to complete our executive session